Nobody knew where the boy came from. He had been left on the steps of a foster home during the middle of winter, wrapped in a thin blanket, with no note, no birth certificate, and no name. The only thing the workers remembered was how silent he had been. No crying, no screaming, just wide eyes staring upward while snow collected softly on the blanket around him. One of the workers decided to call him Daniel. 3 months later, another foster home renamed him Andrew, then Caleb, then Noah. Each new placement came with another name, another file, another fresh start. Officially, social workers claimed the changes gave troubled children a chance to reinvent themselves. But the older the boy became, the more he understood the truth. They changed his name because nobody planned on keeping him long enough for it to matter. By the time he turned 11, he had lived in 9 foster homes. Some were cruel, some simply indifferent. Most treated him like a problem waiting to happen. He fought often, broke rules constantly, and refused to speak. At first, people thought he was mute. Later, therapists insisted he spoke by choice, that somewhere deep down, he had decided words were dangerous. The boy himself never explained. He moved through life quietly, carrying anger like armor. Other children avoided him because he lashed out easily. Adults described him as cold, unreachable, emotionally detached. Truthfully, he simply stopped expecting love a long time ago. When he arrived at the Briarwood Foster Center, just outside Chicago, they gave him another new name, Matthew. He ignored it completely. The foster home itself was old and overcrowded, filled with peeling wallpaper and exhausted workers trying to manage too many children with too few resources. Matthew kept mostly to himself. He sat alone during meals, sat near the wall furthest from the door, and stared silently out windows whenever social workers attempted conversation. Bad behavior, one caretaker muttered while reviewing his records one afternoon. Fighting, running away, refusing communication. She sighed while scribbling onto paperwork. Honestly, he probably won't last here either. Matthew heard every word. He always did. A month later, a married couple arrived at Briarwood, looking to adopt. Matthew barely noticed them at first. The woman looked to be in her early 40s with tired but gentle eyes. Her husband stayed close beside her, quieter, watching the children carefully as they moved to the recreation room. Most of the younger kids rushed toward them immediately, eager for attention. Matthew, however, stayed in the corner, reading an old comic book, missing its cover. One of the staff members approached the couple awkwardly. "There are easier children here," she admitted carefully. "The boy doesn't speak. He's difficult. Honestly, he doesn't connect well with people." "What's his name?" "Matthew," the worker answered. "At least for now." The woman frowned slightly at the response, but walked toward him anyway. She crouched beside his chair gently. "Hi, Matthew," she said softly. "I'm Evelyn. This is my husband, Thomas." Matthew didn't look at her. "We heard you like comics," Thomas added carefully. No response. Most adults gave up quickly after silence. Evelyn didn't. "What's your favorite one?" she asked. Matthew turned the page slowly, ignoring her completely. The worker standing nearby looked embarrassed. "See what I mean?" But Evelyn simply smiled faintly. "Oh, it's alright," she said. "Sometimes people talk when they're ready." Matthew finally looked toward her then, though only briefly. Something about her expression confused him. She wasn't frustrated, wasn't forcing kindness. She just looked patient. That scared him more than anger ever did. 2 days later, the director called Matthew into the office. The couple had chosen him. The room fell silent after the announcement. Even the workers looked shocked. "They understand your history," the director explained carefully, "and they still want to adopt you." Matthew said nothing outwardly, but inside suspicion twisted immediately through him. He had learned long ago that adults always wanted something eventually. Kindness never lasted. Still, he packed a small duffel bag the next morning, while silently planning how he would run away once they stopped paying attention. He wouldn't stay long enough to get hurt again. While final paperwork was being processed downstairs, Matthew quietly slipped from the waiting room and crept toward the front entrance. He planned on leaving before they finished signing anything, but as he passed the office door, he heard Evelyn speaking softly inside. "Maybe we should consider another child," Thomas said gently. "I'm just worried he doesn't know how to let people care about him." Matthew froze. For a moment he expected disappointment, regret. Then Evelyn answered quietly, "That's exactly why he needs us." Silence followed before she continued. "When Charles died," her voice faltered slightly, "I thought I would never be able to be a mother again." Matthew stayed completely still outside the door. "He reminds me of him," she whispered. "Same age, same eyes." Thomas reached for her hand gently. "You don't need to replace him." "I know," she said softly. "That's not what this is." Her voice steadied. "But there's a child upstairs who lived his whole life without love. If he doesn't know how to receive it yet, then we'll teach him, slowly, That's what being parents means. Matthew's chest tightened painfully. For reasons he didn't understand, he quietly stepped away from the door and returned upstairs before anyone noticed he had left. An hour later, he climbed silently into the back seat of their car while rain clouds gathered overhead. The drive through the city passed mostly in silence. Evelyn occasionally tried gentle conversation, while Thomas pointed out buildings or asked simple questions. But Matthew never answered. Instead, he stared out rain-covered windows while mentally mapping possible escape routes. Then, the tire blew. The car jerked sharply before Thomas carefully pulled onto the shoulder beside a crowded downtown street. Rain hammered the windshield while traffic crawled past through glowing reflections of city lights. Thomas sighed. Flat tire. We'll only be a few minutes, Evelyn told Matthew gently. Stay here, okay? The moment they stepped outside into the rain, Matthew moved. He unlocked the door quietly and ran. His shoes splashed with puddles as he sprinted between crowded sidewalks and blurred headlights. Cold rain soaked through his sweatshirt while horns echoed around him. He didn't stop running until he reached the corner of an empty intersection several blocks away. Then suddenly, he slowed. Breathing heavily, Matthew looked back down the street toward where he had come from. They hadn't yelled at him, hadn't threatened him, hadn't treated him like a burden. And despite that, he was leaving anyway. A painful thought settled into him slowly. Maybe he was the one running from love now. Matthew stood silently in the rain while memories surfaced one after another. Every foster home, every abandoned promise, every adult who eventually stopped caring. He realized he had already decided long ago that nobody could genuinely want him, but Evelyn and Thomas had, even after knowing exactly who he was. Tears mixed with rain across his face. Before he finally turned around, he walked back slowly through the storm. Several blocks later, he spotted them in the distance. Evelyn stood beneath the rain, desperately calling his name, while Thomas searched nearby sidewalks in panic. The moment Evelyn saw him, relief crashed visibly across her face. Oh my God. She rushed toward him immediately, kneeling beside him while gripping his shoulders gently. We thought we lost you. Matthew stared at her silently for several seconds. Then, for the first time anyone could remember hearing it, he spoke. His voice came out quiet and rough from disuse. What was your son's name? Evelyn froze completely. Behind her, Thomas looked stunned as tears immediately filled Evelyn's eyes. Charles, she whispered softly. Matthew looked downward. He never had a name that felt like mine, he admitted quietly. They always changed it. Rain fell softly around them while traffic hung nearby. Then the boy looked back up at her, carefully. Could I have his? Evelyn covered her mouth as emotion overwhelmed her completely. For a brief second, worry crossed her face, as if uncertain whether accepting would somehow betray the son she lost. Then she looked at Thomas. He smiled softly through tears, and nodded once. Evelyn turned back toward the boy standing in the rain before her. Yes, she whispered. Yes, you can. The boy, Charles now, said nothing else. He simply stepped forward carefully, uncertainly, and allowed Evelyn to pull him into her arms. And for the first time in his life, he understood something that frightened him far more than loneliness ever had. What it felt like to finally belong.